Hey, what's up, everybody? The V Club here, coming at you with another video. The Villain Club, anything and everything, nothing's off the table. Lifestyles and entertainment. That's what it's all about. And so I talk about something on the daily. And there's always so much to talk about, and we'll just go at it right now. So with that, let's go inside what's been going on. All right. So some of the stuff that's top in the news today. Look at this one, breaking Fani Willis, DA of Georgia, disqualified from the Georgia Trump case. Should have been disqualified a long time ago because she was obviously using lawfare to go after Trump, just like Alvin Bragg did in New York, just like Jack, what's his name? Jack from Florida, Jack something in Florida. And every one of them, the dominoes have been falling, as in every one of them has been falling apart. All right. And everybody and their mama knows it was bullshit. All right. All this stuff. Just like the Jack thing, has fallen apart in Florida. This thing is falling apart. It's just this sort of delayed sequence of events that should have happened finally happened because she was obviously doing things that should have got her disqualified. I just don't know why it took so long for that to happen. But yeah, so this is breaking news, all right, because I wasn't going to talk about this, but let's talk about it. Let's go take a look at what's going on over here as what led to this. All right. I want to know why. What specifically finally led to this? All right, because we already knew that she had her boyfriend. She had her boyfriend who was a prosecutor as well. That
Georgia, and here we go. A Georgia Court of Appeals has disqualified the Fulton County DA Fani Willis from that election interference case. It's coming down right now. The case against Trump and more than a dozen others already largely stalled, as you know. The new ruling means that it will be up to the prosecuting attorney's council in the state of Georgia to find another prosecutor to decide on the case, to take it over and make a decision as to whether or not they continue with a prosecution of the incoming president.
And former Deputy Assistant Attorney General.
Before we continue, all I got to say is that it was obvious she was trying to go after Trump for just to boost her name and ego out there and to try to get Trump convicted, to say that, oh, he's a felon, and to boost her profile. There was a lot of conflict of interest because her boyfriend is a prosecutor who they later found out was part of the thing. And it was just a mess. All right, even the judge gave her a chance, which was pretty stupid. They should have just completely dropped the case altogether, but gave her a chance to say, hey, either you could continue with this prosecution and drop the boyfriend from being one of the prosecutors, or if you want to keep him on, then drop the case altogether. So she pushed him aside, even though it's so obvious that he's still completely involved out of the scene, but he's involved in every aspect of her life, even though she downplays it. And she's such a hypocrite because she talks about all these things about the power of women and women in the workplace and all that, and she doesn't date people that works in her office, which she does. And it's just a bunch of just hypocritical lying, going for clout bullshit that she was doing. Just like all these other prosecutors, DAs, right? Trying to go after Trump to try to get him convicted to go to jail before the election. And all this stuff, all these tactics have failed, right? And that's what happened here. So she gets disqualified, right? And then whomever is supposed to take over the case, I think the person that's going to take over the case is just going to completely drop it, because it's like, one, election interference in Georgia. It was so long ago, the accusations of it, and to try to continue to fight this case when a new election has already come now and Trump even won Georgia. The new whomever it is that's going to take over, it's going to just, I think, will drop the case because it's just a waste of time, a waste of resources, a waste of energy, and who cares? If anything, we already know where all the election interference is coming from. It's the media, right? And everything else that Trump was trying to accuse of others doing, instead of interfering with him interfering with people, it's everybody interfering with him, and it's so obvious. It's so blatantly obvious.
John Yoo is here. John, does this mean that this is yet another one of the cases against Trump that could go away before he's president?
Yep, I believe it.
It's another example, Dana, of this lawfare campaign that was waged by Democrats, boomeranging back on them and falling all around their ears. Anyone who watched this trial, remember, this is the DA who claimed that the entire Trump reelection campaign was something like an organized crime racket that was intending to deprive everyone of our civil rights to vote. But remember, we saw the dramatic testimony over the summer of how DA Fani Willis had hired her boyfriend, essentially, to be the special counsel, overpaid him, and then had him investigate and bring charges against Donald Trump.
And it's so funny how corrupt these DEI attorneys, DEI people that are hired that's probably not qualified to do the job of any of these positions, always bring in people and corrupt and overpay people, take advantage of these sort of situations, right? And all they do is just take money, right? That's one thing noticeable about progressive, liberal, sort of high-level position people. You notice how corrupt they are and all the money they take, right? And then they get caught. And it's funny how, things happen and it catches up to them, right? And this is obvious another corrupt situation here that's catching up to her and her boyfriend. And it's just par for the course when it comes to Democrats, liberals, progressives. They're all corrupt.
It's a complete conflict of interest. And if you take a quick look at the Georgia Appeals Court decision here, that's what it says. There's such an appearance of impropriety, an appearance of a conflict of interest that Fani Willis should not be the prosecutor. I think this spells yet another case that's going to have to either be suspended or more likely just ended and tossed out. It's hard for me to see another Georgia district attorney wanting to take up this flawed case and try to prosecute Trump on these theories that his.
And it's so long ago too, by the way. I mean, just that's the thing. It's like, it's so long ago. There's nobody that's going to want to take over and say, okay, let's continue this. No, I think it's going to be dropped altogether.
The re-election campaign was some kind of criminal, organized crime enterprise.
John, a couple of things here. There are 14 others that face charges. I don't know what happens to them, but she can appeal to the state Supreme Court in Georgia. But given what the Supreme Court said in Washington about immunity, I mean, does the state Supreme Court even take her case in Georgia?
Nope.
It's a good question, Bill. I think what's going to happen here, along the lines of possible appeals and so on, is it looks likely, because of that presidential immunity decision by the Supreme Court, that any kind of state prosecution of President Trump would have to be at least suspended, if not dropped. You're seeing that going on, those arguments going on right now up in New York City with the case being heard by Judge Merchan. So even if they could get past immunity, they'd still have to suspend it while President Trump was in office. But furthermore, you'd have to go back and then scrub the whole indictment, scrub everything the grand jury did, and say you've got to eliminate anything that used official actions by President Trump, any evidence that came in from White House officials, from anything the president was doing in the Oval Office. That might actually fatally handicap this prosecution and require the whole thing to be dismissed.
It's interesting, too, because she had this novel way of trying to get at him through RICO. Was that a mistake as well? In addition to her personal behavior, obviously, is what they're saying here.
None of them.
In a way, it was this novel idea of how can I be the one to take Trump down?
Don't know what RICO is.
Politically, she wanted that reputation.
Yeah. Dana, you and I remember we're
Exactly.
Justice Department alums. Yeah, I remember you when you were there and I was there and we were, there after
It's
the days
all
of
about
9/11.
reputation.
And you can use this kind of statute,
Clout.
RICO, to try to go after real organized crime, drug cartels, mafia organizations. DA Fani Willis introduced, I think, a really dangerous theory was that we could use these powerful tools that are used for terrorists and drug cartels and apply them to political campaigns, and not just any political campaign, but the campaign by the leading opposition candidate at that time, Donald Trump, the head of one of the two major parties.
Shit, if you want to look at organized crime, you got to look into the Biden family. You want to use this and go RICO and talk about organized crime? The Biden family, crime family, right? Hunter, Joe, and any constituents. That's something to be looked at into. I mean, they're so blatantly obvious that Joe obviously pardoned Hunter going as far back as 2014 for some of the questionable dealings and all that stuff. So tell me something there.
Parties in the country. I think ultimately the whole thing would have been tossed out because of violate the free speech rights of Donald Trump, the free speech rights of the Republican Party, and actually a lot of Americans who supported him. So I think in the end, this whole thing was going to come crashing down around Fani Willis's and the Democratic Party's ears. Anyway.
Well, it seemed complicated from the beginning. There is that case here in New York that's still out there, the 34 counts in Judge Merchan's courtroom. He made a ruling about a week ago that the conviction still stands, but the penalty will be judged at a later date. John, do you think that later date ever happens now?
Nope.
I think this is Judge Merchan really still trying to go after Donald Trump. Think about it. If you look, Bill, you mentioned the presidential immunity case. There's a footnote, a really important footnote in that opinion that says states, even if they're prosecuting a president for private acts, can't use evidence from the presidency. They can't use what Donald Trump said in the Oval Office. They can't use what White House officials said. Nevertheless, Judge Merchan went ahead and held a trial and introduced that kind of evidence. He should, at the very least, order a new trial, if not force a DA to go back to it. But what Merchan is doing, which I think is still dangerous, is he's dangling these charges still, the sentencing, over the head of Donald Trump and saying, well, I can't sentence you now. Maybe I won't. He still probably, he could try to get in before the inauguration, but he shouldn't. But he's going to say, I'm going to dangle that over your head for the next 4 years, and I'm going to be waiting for you when your presidency is over.
Well, you have to think he's doing the work of Alvin Bragg, right, Dana? At the moment. I mean, he works for the DA, right, John?
I don't know.
I wouldn't say he's doing. I'm sure Bragg loves this idea because Bragg is trying to make his career out of harassing President Trump. And this is a terrible thing for not just Donald Trump, for all Americans because of the presidency. You don't want presidents to have to try to make the toughest decisions on behalf of the country and have to worry what's going to happen to me when I come out of office. Is this, two-bit judge and this DA
you have
going
to
be
be able to
waiting
have
for
clear
me?
decision making.
Fuck
Indeed,
those guys.
John, you stick around for a moment. We have some other breaking news. Bill.
Yeah, fuck those guys. Speaking of RICO, let's talk about AOC. This is what I wanted to talk about was AOC, all right? So a couple of days ago, it was decided that she was trying to step up to be, I guess, the head of the Democratic Oversight Committee, right? And, because it's kind of wide open right now. And it was kind of like between her and another guy who's in the 70s. And you know what's funny is that as she tried to step in, Pelosi put a block to that, said, nope, you're not going to do it. We're going to put this 74-year-old guy in, and he's going to take over that oversight committee. And so there's a lot of like, oh, shit, not another old guy. So you have a split in the Democratic Party right now because of the fact that, one, well, I bang her. That's one thing. About these liberal, progressive Democrat females, like especially like her, I bang her. But aside from banging her, that's what they're good for. They're good for banging. All right. I mean, look at them, right? Woo, woo, woo. Just kidding. But no. Besides that, all right. So she's like in her 30s, like 35 or something like that, and the other guy's like 74. All right. And so the whole thing about it was that Pelosi put a block to that, and she's doing it for political purposes, obviously. Let's take a look at this news report here, and I'll kind of break into why at the same time. All right. Because the thing about it is that it's kind of hard for them, man. They're in a tough spot because the Oversight Committee is important for the Democrats, and they're kind of teetering along with the old-style Democrats versus the progressive Democrats, right? And the feeling of the room is that because of what's been going on the last 4 years, and it's obvious that maybe the Democrats are taking acknowledgement of it, right, with how progressive things are, that it was felt, especially by Pelosi, that AOC is too progressive, for the Democrats and for America right now because of what happened, right? I mean, pretty much all states, not all states. Well, all states increased voting for Republicans this time, this election. All swing states voted for Republicans. Of course, you'll still have your blue states that supported the Democrats during the election, obviously, but it really showed the change that's occurred in America, that maybe things were too progressive.
So much for Democrats leaning into the next generation.
And
AOC
so,
was lobbying to become the rank.
So that's what happened there, and I think Pelosi looked at it, and she's part of the old guard, and she was like, man, I don't want to put her in because she's probably the most powerful Democrat for the Democrats, and said, nah, we can't have AOC in right now because she's too far left progressive. That's to me what it is, because obviously Kamala is progressive, she's progressive, Biden was progressive. It was bad. It's a bad recipe, and look at what's been going on, right? People have spoken, all right? So AOC loses a powerful seat. Let's see.
Member of the House Oversight Committee, and her opponent was Congressman Jerry Connolly, who's about twice her age. But in the end, Connolly defeated Ocasio-Cortez by 131 votes to 84.
The roll came open after current Oversight Ranking Member Jamie Raskin opted to run for the top Democratic spot on the Judiciary Committee instead. Connolly, who is 74, argued that the idea there was generational change afoot within the Democratic caucus was a, quote, false narrative, that he and his colleagues were, quote, looking at capability, we are not looking at age.
He had the backing of several...
And people that argue about how we need a new generation, a young generation to take over, right, like an AOC, which is kind of funny because it goes against their narrative about ageism, right? About, it's funny because when everybody got on Biden for being, old and all that stuff, and he's definitely senile, and then, you can't, it's so funny, the contradiction. I mean, man, when you think about it, right? Oh man, if you're criticizing Biden's age, then, you're a biased hypocrite, against age and all that, right? And then as soon as they pulled him out and replaced him with Kamala, right? Oh, and then it was all of a sudden, oh man, look at Trump, he's old, man, he's past his prime, he's past he's old, right? And then he won. So then comes this argument about this seat, right, with Cortez here and the 74-year-old dude, right? And all of a sudden, it's that whole age thing again, right? We need fresh new blood in here, and because the argument is, oh man, he's too old for it. And then now that he won, that's kind of the argument right now. But then it's against their whole narrative again about age, right? If you're a hypocrite if you talk about age and all that, because age is knowledge and stuff. But yet that's what they're talking about because they want a fresh new generation taking over the seat. So it's funny how they are, right? How much hypocritical, bullshit, lying, corrupt all these Democrats are within themselves. It's so funny.
veteran lawmakers, including the not-to-be-trifled with former Speaker Nancy Pelosi. What is more stunning is
she had
that
a lot of
recently
weight to it,
revealed he has a
Pelosi.
form of cancer which will require aggressive treatment. In response to her loss, AOC posted on Blue Sky, "Tried my best. Sorry I couldn't pull it through, everyone. We live to fight another day."
Connolly, for his part, posted on X yesterday, "I thank my colleagues for their support and the confidence they've placed in me to lead House Democrats on the Oversight Committee." So this is probably a unfortunate blow for supporters of AOC, of which there are many. She is very popular among progressives and still some on the left, although I know others on the left are disappointed with her seeming pivot, not exactly to the center, but to try to play nicer with the establishment in hopes, I think, of winning a position.
That's all it is. All it is with what she was doing, there's no way she was trying to go to center, right? Like a centrist. She is definitely progressive. Pelosi saw that and put a lot of influence behind that. You know what? AOC is a little bit too progressive, and put a stop to that and be like, hey, all right, you want to vote for somebody, you vote for the guy, all right?
Just like this one, but sorry, generational change, you're going to have to wait on that.
And by quite a large margin as well. I mean, almost 50 vote margin that she lost by, which I was quite surprised by.
You thought it was going to be closer?
I thought it was going to be closer. I didn't necessarily think she was going to win, and Jerry Connolly had previously got the approval of the steering committee, which is important, and then it went to the full vote. But I thought it was going to be closer for a couple of reasons. One is, I think, the generational change argument is definitely out there, and not only on Capitol Hill or not only in the Democratic Party. If we look at the results of the recent election, obviously Donald Trump made some inroads with younger.
They will never shift from an older age, like in the 60s, 70s, all of a sudden jump to the 30s and 40s. There's no way. To me, the shift would have to be gradual, maybe, a 5-year gradual, from the 70s to like the 60s and the 50s, that kind of thing. But to jump from like a 70-something to a 30-something, no way. They would never do that. And not only will they never do that in government, the people will never go for that, because there's a lot of older voters that are always about, things, traditional things, right? And they're kind of stuck, I hate to say it, but they're stuck in their ways of supporting who they support. And usually they don't shift towards young up-and-comers just like that. They just don't. They never have done that. But gradual, yes. A shift of a 40-year difference in age, no. It just won't happen. And that's what really showed in this, I guess, this sort of vote to bring in the Connolly dude over AOC for this seat.
Voters, the Democratic advantage there diminishing. I would think it would be to Dems' advantage to have younger faces. The other thing is AOC is a very effective communicator.
They all say that. You know what's funny? It's like they all say that. Oh, Harris is well, she wasn't. AOC is a great communicator. They keep saying that shit, right? I don't give a shit. Is she good on politics? No, she's terrible. All right? All the stuff that she supported, terrible decision making, overspending, and that's what Democrats are. They are terrible decision makers. They are terrible spenders, and that's just the top two reasons why you don't want a Democrat or don't like Democrats, is because they make terrible decisions and they love control over us. Look at all the stuff that they're doing in New York, where she's from. Look at all the stuff they're doing in California, right? They love control, overspending, and priorities on other things but us. So I don't know. That's just something to think about. I wanted to bring this up because she got outvoted for this seat. And am I surprised? No. Shifting of the old guard to the new guard? No, it just doesn't happen, It has to be gradual and not like a big leap, as this was what was going to happen. Plus, Democrats are far too progressive, and it shows that people don't like it. And they got to learn their lesson that people don't like this far left progressiveness that they're really trying to push upon people, because it's really rubbing us the wrong way, in the worst way, and that's why you lose people. And they lost a lot of people to the right and shifted to Republicans. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I want to say thanks for tuning in. Just comment down below. It's about anything and everything. Subscribe to the bell icon, as I do daily stuff here. Other than that, I'll see you next one.